Welcome back to the Creator Stage here on the show floor, right at the tip of Artist Alley. My name's Chuck from ChuckLoadedComics.com, and they say sometimes that you want to save the best for last, and that is absolutely true. This is the final panel here at the Creator Stage at Philadelphia. Huge thank you to the city of Philadelphia, all the fans for coming out. I heard there was some kind of a baseball contest today, so I really appreciate you guys coming out to the show. I don't know, just some rumorings I heard around in the bathroom. The word legend is thrown around quite a lot. The gentleman to my right, your left, is the longest running Deadpool artist in history.
It's true.
Mr. Deadpool. Mr. Deadpool. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a massive Philadelphia round of applause for our final guest of the convention, Mr. Mike Hawthorne.
Thank you.
Mike's second time on stage here at the on the Creator Stage this week.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Philadelphia, by the way. Welcome back to Fan Expo.
I am happy to be here. I lived in Philly for about 5 years, so it's very close to my heart. I love it here. Very cool.
Native.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, it's something special about day 3. I don't know if you share the same sentiment as me, but you wake up on day 3 at a convention and you're like, okay, how am I going to muster the energy to do this one more time? But day 3 always winds up being just one of the funnest days. You get that extra energy.
I was going to say, I also think it's the day when, if you are really into this is the day you come where, like, you're not here for something flashy. You're here just because you love the convention. You love the energy, the atmosphere, meeting creators. I got to walk around a little bit and talk to people. Like, it's Sundays are always really nice.
It's a great day for just kind of rifling through long boxes and catching up with friends, finding out who's doing what.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been beautiful here in Philadelphia.
It has. I mean, I guess it rained Friday night a little bit, but that was after the show, and I was already in the hotel room drawing, so I was good. I stayed dry.
It was great. So your con has been pretty good this week?
Yeah, very, very busy. I don't know if you can tell I'm losing my voice, so sorry if I sound like Wolfman Jack up here.
So crank Mike's microphone up. What was the last con, I'm just curious, that you attended before the world shut down?
Oh, man. So
you guys remember that, when the world shut down?
Yeah. I actually was not a big con goer. I mean, I did some shows early on in my career and took like a 15-year hiatus. And I just the year and a half, got back into it. So the last show I did was in Baltimore in September or October, I forget which, which is also close to home. So it's Baltimore and Philly both feel like home shows for me. So yeah, that was always fun. It was super fun.
Yeah, it's nice hanging with the hometown crowd.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You were actually up here on this stage last night, if I believe so.
Yeah.
It was with your podcast. Your good friend, Mr. Jamar Nicholas.
Right.
It ain't hard to tell.
That's right. Yeah. Jamar's a native Philadelphian. He's got a handful of like Philly-based nicknames, like because he does a lot of interview podcasts. So he goes by Johnny Carson and stuff like that. So yeah, if you don't know Jamar's work, you should check him out. He's doing a big project at Scholastics right now.
Yeah.
So it's very awesome. Called Leon. It was Defender the Playground. I think it's Leon the Extraordinary now. So cool stuff.
Check out the podcast. It's called It Ain't Hard to Tell.
Yeah.
Awesome podcast from two very awesome comic book creators. I know that you're a lifelong comic book reader.
Yep.
You're not just somebody who works in the industry. You're not just one of these, legends that everybody just fawns over. You're actually a fan. You've been a fan since you were a kid. Take us back to young Mike days. Like, who was your favorites? DC, Marvel.
Oh man, before I had a favorite comic, I probably had a favorite creator. I remember picking up an issue of Uncanny X-Men, and Mark Silvestri drew it, and I just thought, that's for me. Like, up until then, I was sort of like scribbling graffiti and goofing her off, and I think seeing his name in a book made it real that, oh, this is an actual job you can do. And after that, it was off to the races. I had a relative that had very interesting taste in comics. So it was in those days when nobody really collected it. He would just buy it, read it, and hand it off to me. So I would read like weird black and white books, some import stuff, like Judge Dredd. He would read, old issues of Heavy Metal and those black and white illustrated Conan books, like anything he got his hands on. So to me, it was like I didn't have one type of book that I was super into. I just got to have this cool range of black and white, indie, mainstream, and it was awesome. So But I think the one thing, if I had to put my finger on one book that sort of moved the needle for me, it was probably that first one, that Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit of Deadpool. I know we got massive Deadpool fans,
Yeah.
huge fans of yours already. The seats are already actually starting to fill up a little bit. So in 2013, you and Jerry Duggan partnered on.
Wow, that long ago.
It's
Holy
2013.
crap.
I don't even know what year it is right now, to be
I
honest
don't
with
know.
you.
It's 2002. I don't know. Went backwards.
The Duggan Posehn run of Deadpool is so much fun.
Yeah.
It's such a fun book. Talk to us a little bit about how that relationship kind of came to be, because it's an iconic. I mean, everything you did with Deadpool, absolutely iconic.
Yeah, it's weird because I actually turned the book down the first time they offered it to me. I was working on. I had been doing Conan for a year, and then took a break from American comics and was doing some French books actually, and that was a wonderful experience. But this thing came around through a very close friend of mine. His name is Tony Moore. He's co-creator of The Walking Dead. We came up together in the industry, like just sort of, taking any gig that came across our desk and trying to make it. And he had launched the Deadpool series with Brian Posehn and Jerry Duggan, and he was going to hop out and threw my name in a hat, and the rest was history. We hit it off pretty quickly, meaning Jerry and Brian. I didn't know them before the show. I knew Brian's work from TV and stuff, but it was just one of those things where you probably all have had jobs where you instantly click with the people around you, and that's kind of what happened with us. And so that's why, some of my rules, like you sort of, like surviving in freelance, you set up these goofy rules for yourself, and one of them was like I never stayed at one publishing house for too long and bounced around, because I knew I got creatively bored pretty quickly. And I started to break all those rules for Deadpool because everything felt right. So up until then, I wouldn't stay on a book for more than about 12 issues. And I ended up staying on Deadpool for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
It was weird, yeah. But it was one of those things when, like, it's like a sports team. When, like, you start winning games, people want to, like, poach players off your team. And so as soon as Deadpool started doing really well for us, like, other people were trying to sort of breaking up the team. Like, I got offered Superman, Jerry got offered a bunch of stuff. And we were just, like, sort of fighting to keep the little team together because there was something special there. And the rest was history. It was just awesome. It was an awesome run. I am very grateful that we got to end it on our own terms. Like, we didn't get booted out. Jerry had a clear end in mind. And Jerry was like, listen, it's all downhill from here, so we should probably bail before this this thing gets bad. So he just had a very smart, masterful sort of plan for the entire run, and it worked out like a dream. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolutely iconic run.
Well, thank you, man.
Tell us a little bit about, staying together for 6 years. That's a long time. I mean, was it just a skyrocket of just up as far as sales are concerned? Popularity?
I believe the sales were pretty. Yeah, I mean, I think there was a time when I know the wedding issue was like sort of a big peak. That thing was, wow. I don't remember specific numbers, but I know it would always, like, every issue seemed like it did better than the last. And I don't want to take credit for that. I think it was just sort of a team effort. Like, it was Jerry and Brian. I'm going to emphasize Jerry often because Brian ended up dropping off the series after the initial, I think, year or so. But I think everybody was working so well together that it just showed on the page. And, we also had other artists like Scott that just everything just worked right. So we were scared to mess with it. And it was one of those things where, because everything was working creatively, fans were sort of just picking up on that vibe. I don't know that Marvel did anything special to promote it or market it or anything outside of what they would normally do for a book. It was just, you sort of see a thing and you go, there's something here that I want to jump onto. And we were very lucky. Fans were super supportive. I mean, it was the first time in my career where I'd do signings and there'd be like a line around the door. And like, I knew damn well they weren't there for me. Like, this is just the popularity of this character at the time. And
I don't know, man. Your art is pretty damn special.
Well, thank you. It was in some ways it was kind of humbling because I had never, I mean, I had always been very lucky in that I got a lot of work, but I had never been on a book where there was that kind of just intense love for it. You know what I mean? And there's kind of you'll see it like Jerry will go to San Diego and pose with like 50 Deadpool cosplayers.
Oh yeah.
There's just something special. It was like a little sub community within the Marvel greater community, which is just super. It's really fun, loving, awesome, supportive. Like everything you want out of comics is what the Deadpool fan base is like.
So what? I mean, obviously, while your run was going on at Marvel, the Deadpool films were coming out.
Yeah, I think.
So I mean, that's got to equate to something as far as.
Yeah, we sort of jumped on when the Deadpool video game shipped, I think is when we started. And then the movie, and then the second movie. And it was just like, this can't get, I mean, it's something's got to go wrong. So we're like, we gotta bail before. I mean,
it's hard, you know, once the popularity, once it gets crazy popular in the movies, it's like eventually we got to jump off this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You always get very disappointed.
Yeah, like you don't want to be the guy that's like being pushed out of the party at the end. So we were always very mindful of that. And Jerry actually gets name dropped in, I think, Deadpool 2. I think on that, or maybe it's the first one. They're like fighting on like Jerry Dugan Boulevard or something.
I missed that.
Yeah, there's an Easter egg in there for Jerry. I didn't get any, I don't think, which is whatever.
There's still Deadpool 3 coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope.
You'll be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness somewhere. Everybody's going to be in that movie.
Yeah, anyway, man. Yeah.
So, I mean, you continued working with Jerry, even after Deadpool, after your 6-year run. I mean, Jerry did, what was it? It was the Infinity Countdown?
Yeah, we did an event book leading up to the sort of, Marvel will sort of tie in book series with the movies, so I think it was leading into the original Avengers, like Infinity War movies. So we did an Infinity Countdown, me, Jerry, and Mike Deodato was another artist on the series, that was cool because I got to draw all the space stuff, the Guardians of the Galaxy, got to draw Galactus for the first time, Silver Surfer and all this. Like I actually got to draw Galactus like eating a planet, which was super dope. Like that was a high point in my career. And I got to draw Silver Surfer, which I just love. Like visually, it's just an interesting character to try to wrap your head around. So yeah, we kept working together. I mean, we have even plans now. I mean, like we have some creator-owned stuff that we'd like to get off the ground if I can find a minute to breathe and draw something new. So
I mean, that must have just been a mind-blowing experience, you know, as someone who is a self-proclaimed comic book nerd from a very, very young age. I mean, drawing Deadpool's great.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, drawing Silver Surfer and Galactus eating a planet, and probably like, I mean, was that a full-page spread?
Oh, dude, I milked it for all it was worth. I think I ended up doing it. I did do it.
I want to fold out.
Yeah, I literally did a double-page spread. Had they let me, I would have absolutely done a fold-out thing for this thing because I really wanted to just milk that moment. And I got to check off a lot of bucket list characters, man. It was really, really a fun time.
That's cool. I want to talk a little bit about your process. Are you a pencil and ink kind of guy? Did you get to keep your giant Galactus? Is it hanging in your wall somewhere?
I still work traditionally. I actually have a couple of portfolios here to my right that I need to make sure not to forget before I leave the stage.
The auction starts right after this.
Yeah, I still work traditionally. I mean, I do some digital work, but mostly for personal projects. I like having the physical art because it feels like, for story purposes, I can sort of lay out all the pages and look at them and make sure everything is reading well and flowing well. I don't feel like I can do that very well when I'm working digitally. So every chance I get, I will ink myself, although I sort of hit a point at Marvel where they were like, look, we need to get you with an inker because like we need to keep you moving. They had a lot of plans for the stuff that they wanted us to do. So I have now not been inking a lot of my own work, unfortunately. But I'm super lucky in that I get to work with like incredible artists that are like probably way better inkers than I am, which I'm very grateful. Right now I have been working with a guy named Adriano Di Benedetto that he inked me on. What did we start on at? Like a Machine Man thing, and then he inked a lot of my Daredevil run, and he went on to ink my Superior Spider-Man run. Like he's just an incredible draftsperson, and I get to hold the pages and soak them all in, you know. So yeah. I love original art.
Yeah, I mean, you've worked on so much other stuff besides Deadpool, and we could talk for an hour and a half up here, but eventually they are literally going to close the doors on us.
I know.
I was kind of curious. You did Conan.
Right.
Are you familiar? Have you been reading any of the Jason Aaron stuff going on at Conan? Because he's like doing the Lord's work over there with Conan.
Yeah, I know it's super popular. Unfortunately, I have not. Like, it's just been, it's been kind of a drag. Like, I have not gotten to read a lot of comics lately.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little like when I began my career, I was a cook, and you'd be cooking for 8 hours, and you go home, and like the last thing you want to do is cook, so you end up making like a bologna sandwich or something. I am like reading so many scripts and living comics all day and night that I haven't gotten to really absorb anything, man, which sucks. It's like I've heard great things about Jason's run, though, for sure.
I've heard similar things about Liberace. You know, he comes home, last thing he wants to do is play a piano.
This is true. Yeah, man.
I want to circle back a little bit about your process, but more about sort of your training.
Okay.
Were you always sketching as a kid? You know, how did you
Yeah.
hone your craft? And any artists who might be in the audience, I was just kind of curious. Oh, we are doing a Q&A, though. If let's talk really quickly. Did you have a question about process by chance?
About to ask.
Perfect. Let's do it.
I was just kind of wondering about how you break down the script, because I know the guy writes up the script, but you still have to put it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I saw somebody with the script over on the other side, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So you get two kinds of script. Normally, it's a full script, which looks like a screenplay. So it's broken down by panel, has a description in each panel, and then dialogue. And that's relatively straightforward. You can just count how many panels are, lay out your page. Each page is like a design project before you've even drawn any figures. You have to design the panels in a way so that, you know, they read clearly from left to right, top to bottom. You will occasionally get what's called the Marvel method in terms of scripts, which is just like a paragraph describing what's supposed to be on the page. And that takes a little more brain power because you have to actually break down the panels yourself. And that will, normally what I'll do is I'll read that script and with a red pen and just underline the main segments in a sentence that I know needs to be in the panel, and then sort of drop a line behind a sentence to say, that's the end of that panel, I need to work towards the next one, and then do the layout. But it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it really is just make sure you hit all the beats, make sure you respect the story, and leave enough room for, you know, dialogue and whatever other effects need to be incorporated.
Have you ever worked off of a book or something like that?
Have I ever worked? It's funny you should ask. Marvel got the rights for George R.R. Martin's Wild Cards, which we are adapting into a comic. So I went and got the novel and just read the first one and did the same thing. I sort of started with a pen and annotated the thing, made notes for individual characters and scenes and things like that. Now the writer wrote a full script, so I didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But I would imagine that from the writing end, he did essentially what I did. You know, went through the book, pulled out all the important elements, and then you sort of plug those, because you in a novel you can sort of spend words and like paint a picture. With us, we have to really like be much more efficient. So you have to sort of pull out the key frames, you know, so to speak, and make sure you're hitting the story points without missing any important details. So.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to step up to the mic. We have I can't believe it. We're down to like 5 minutes. This
Is it
just,
really?
like flying by.
Jesus,
We
okay.
can go a little long if anybody has any questions. But
Okay.
You said something really poignant yesterday when you were doing your podcast about the importance of practicing.
Yes.
I hinted earlier about sort of your training, you know, how you got in, but more importantly, how do you get good?
Yeah.
Obviously, you need a talent, but you know, how can you hone that talent?
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I always loved drawing. I don't think I was particularly gifted in any way. I just worked at it. So I mean, I went to art school. I was lucky enough that I had people sort of pushing me to, I grew up kind of I grew up in a very poor kid, and I was in an inner city school, and I was lucky in that I had this art teacher, who took a special interest in me just because he noticed that I wasn't necessarily the most talented kid in the room, but I was the one drawing the most. So we had a deal that as long as I filled up the sketchbooks, he would always get me a new sketchbook. So I would just tear through 100-page sketchbooks like every month or so. Just tons of mileage, which more than like lessons, I think just putting in a lot of like just time sketching will help you get better. It teaches you to look at things and reproduce them on the page. From there, I went to, it doesn't exist anymore, but Pennsylvania used to have a thing called the Pennsylvania Governor's School, that you got a full ride to go for a summer of like college classes. And that was sort of my first intro to the college art experience. And then from there, I studied art here at Temple's Tyler School of Art, and I actually got my degree in painting and fine art. So it was just tons and tons and tons of figure drawing, which I still do to this day. I will do figure drawing lessons or sessions once a week, and most of my background is in sort of fine art drawing and painting, which those skills still carry over to the comic stuff. I mean, you have to learn to compose a narrative and put things on a page, but having to take design classes in art school, having to take figure drawing classes, that's all the stuff that I'm using every day on in a comic book. And then once I graduated, I realized like this isn't a thing I can just drop off and say I'm done now. So I still go, right now it's once a week because I teach anatomy at an art school, but normally it's once a month I'll go in and do a figure drawing just to practice, just to keep that going. Every morning I do a warm-up sketch, usually figurative, either from memory or from like photo references that you would use for like a life drawing class kind of thing. And I'm just constantly trying to keep that tool sharp. I probably said yesterday, like if LeBron James can practice, then I can practice. Like I don't have a good excuse for not putting in a little more work, especially like this is a competitive business and I want to keep my spot. So the only way I know to do that is just to put effort into things.
I've heard that Jack Kirby used to just give their sketches to the delivery boy, for free sandwiches and stuff. What do you do with all your practice sketches? Is there a pile of them? Are you throwing them in the trash?
My wife would probably. I mean, we made the joke that I should start selling sketchbooks by the pound.
Really?
Just because it's getting ridiculous at home. At any given moment, like right now, I just counted them. I had like 13 sketchbooks going at once. Each one has a different job. So there's like 2 big life drawing sketchbooks. There's one dedicated to Wonder Woman, which is the book I'm working on now.
With Stephanie, right?
Yeah. Steph Phillips is here actually, and so each sketchbook has its own job. But the point is like I do a lot of drawing. So one of the things we're doing is just collecting them into art books. So I've been using like Kickstarter as a way to like do something with all this extra stuff. So we put out like sketch zines and hardcover sketchbooks or art books that have been doing really, really well. We just put out another 200-page art book, like full color. Everything from like sort of instructive stuff where I go from layout to final illustration to like just everyday sketches. Mm-hmm. And then the warm-up sketches I've been collecting into little like zines, just for fun. I mean, none of this stuff is meant to set the world on fire. It's just meant to like have an outlet for all the extra stuff. You would think like I'd be fine just drawing for my day job, but it literally is like I work all day drawing, and to relax I'll sit down and draw some more, which is probably not healthy, but there it is.
Liberace said that also. Phenomenal artist. Nobody knows
there
that.
You
about
go. Right on.
I know, man, we're running a little over on time, but I wanted to ask
cool.
you about Happiness Will Follow.
Oh boy. Okay.
Tell us about Happiness Will Follow.
Happiness Will Follow is it's kind of a bummer. It has happiness in the title, but it's not a terribly happy book. It's an autobiographical book that I put out with the folks at Boom Archaea. Their imprint for sort of the more like art house type books. It's a book that I actually did for Vertigo probably 10 years ago, and I didn't pitch it. It came about. I was at signing in New York City for a different book I was working on for Vertigo in DC, and the book, The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, had just won the Pulitzer, and it's about a Dominican kid whose family's been cursed, and this curse follows the family throughout the novel. And I told my editor at the time, just sort of offhanded, oh, that's what happened to me when I was a kid. My mother was from Puerto Rico, and we came home one day when I was a little kid, and she found a shoe propped up against our doorway to our apartment. And my mom was very, very, very tough and rarely got scared. Like, she was about 4'11" and like 90% anger, carried a pistol, was very, very, very tough. But this shoe just freaked her out. And I didn't know what it meant, but to her, she recognized it as like this sort of what she called brujeria, like this curse. And she immediately sent me to stay with some friends in Pennsylvania, and it's a whole kind of crazy story. But through that story, I got to talk a little bit about being in this sort of middle zone when you're a Puerto Rican in America, where you're an American citizen, but you're not always seen that way, and the culture being this combination of elements of Spain, Africa, and Taino, like native culture stuff. And I didn't want to do the book. The editor at Vertigo, once he heard the story, was like enthralled and was like, if you draw that book, I will publish it. And at the time, like, only the cool kids got to write books for Vertigo. So I was like, holy crap, I can't say no to this, but I 100,000% do not want to do this book. So my plan was do the book for them and then let people sort of not read it and then pitch them my own 100 bullets or something. And while working on that book, there was kind of an implosion at the time for, there was a lot of things moving around at DC. And then make a long story short, I ended up getting the rights back and sat on it for 10 years because I was just sort of scared to publish this book. And to bring our conversation full circle, Jerry Dugan, who I was working on with Deadpool, I got to talking to him about the book. He read an excerpt for it. He's like, you got to let me show this to the Boom people. I bet they'd love to publish it. And that's all she wrote. The thing, they immediately sort of got the material. They didn't mess with it. We actually added, because there had been 10 years since I ended this book, and I ended it in a way that wouldn't have made sense considering I didn't do the things I had hoped I would do once that book was over. So we added another 2 chapters and put it out, and it was weird, like sort of letting out the personal stuff. I have been not brave with my work. You get to do all this fun stuff, but you're kind of hiding behind the mask of the characters you're drawing. With this thing, there was no hiding. I was like letting it all out, which was kind of terrifying, frankly.
Yeah.
But the reception was great. I just heard from the Boom people that the Department of Education in New York City just bought like a ton of copies to put in all the libraries and all the schools in New York City school district. It's crazy. It feels very surreal.
That's amazing story. Yeah. And did I say we saved the best for last? I mean, huge round of applause.
Thank you.
Mr. Mike Hawthorne, I would say run over to his table, but I don't even know if you're going back to your table at this point.
I got to go home, guys. I'm sorry. I'm on deadline. I got Wonder Woman stuff to hand in.
Well, give our best to Stephanie.
All right, I will, man. I will.
Thanks so much for sitting down with us here at the very end of day 3 here in Philadelphia. So
thank all of you guys. I appreciate it. I know
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, I know everybody's sort of tired and ready to go home. So thank you.